computer-generated video to show apocalyptic what-if scenarios.
Threat to national security posed by deepfakes.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Manipulated by AI.
Deepfake photos.
Welcome to the digital era. In a world where artificial intelligence can conjure up images so real they're virtually indistinguishable from reality, how do we discern truth from fiction? Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and today we're diving into a topic that's not just fascinating, but also crucial in our information-saturated world. We're talking about AI-generated images. They're stunning, realistic, and completely fabricated. And while they showcase the marvels of modern technology, they also pose a significant challenge with the rise of disinformation. In recent years, we've witnessed the power of disinformation. It's impacted elections, news events, and human rights issues around the world. These aren't just lines of code creating fun pictures. They're tools that in the wrong hands can have real-world impact, shaping opinions and altering narratives. But here's where we can make a difference. By learning to spot these AI-generated fakes, we arm ourselves with knowledge, becoming more critical consumers of information. This isn't just a skill for tech enthusiasts or digital experts, it's a critical tool for everyone, because in the fight against disinformation, every one of us plays a role. In this tutorial, we're going to look at platforms like ThisPersonDoesNotExist, Midjourney, DALL-E, and more. We'll learn how they work, we'll see how they've been misused, and most importantly, we'll go through how to spot these fakes. Whether you're a social media buff, a concerned citizen, or just curious about the digital world, this tutorial will be relevant for you. Before we jump into each of the more popular platforms, it might be helpful to cover some of the main tips on how to detect irregularities, inaccuracies, or mistruths depicted in potentially generated or edited images. There are 5 common tips to look out for. First, you should always look closely at the image. When looking at an image, focus on things like hands, or faces, or positions of eyes. AI-generated images struggle to replicate hands realistically, often resulting in unnatural or awkward positioning. They also have an unnatural gaze, inconsistent lighting, and sometimes even stiff facial expressions. Second, look at the background. Look for blurred or pixelated elements. Sometimes there may be distortion in the reflections, repeating patterns, which may indicate AI generation. Third, do an image reverse search. And we've gone through some of those image reverse search platforms through my OSINT at home tutorials, where we've used things like Google, Google Lens, Yandex, TinEye, or others to check if the image appears elsewhere online, particularly on AI-related forums or websites. The fourth tip is to verify the source sharing the content. Does the credibility of the account actually sharing it show that it's an authentic account or that it's believable? And the last one is to verify the event or the claim itself. If there's a photo or a video of a fire or an emergency event, have there been other reputable resources posting about it, sharing images about it? Are there other people talking about the event or the claim? So let's get stuck into the first platform, which is ThisPersonDoesNotExist. ThisPersonDoesNotExist is a freely available website that applies user generative adversarial networks to create highly realistic human faces. When you click refresh on the website, you can see that it makes a new face each time. If you were to image reverse search these faces, you can see that they don't exist on the internet because these are faces that are newly created faces and are not real people. As you go through the faces, you can also notice some similarities and get an understanding of how the generation works and how these faces are generated. While I'm clicking through some of these faces, you can also see some of the obvious signs that they might be fake faces. For example, the first thing is the fact that the eyes are always in the middle of the actual image. If you were to place your 2 fingers up to the screen as I click refresh here, which you could even do now, you can see that the eyes are always in the exact same location, even when the face or the composition of the face changes. What you can also notice outside of the eyes is the failure of images to actually blur properly. Each one of these images has issues with blurring or minute clues as to it being a generated image. For example, if we have a look at the bottom left of this image, we can see the blurring of this fabric down here. We can go through more and we can start to see the odd complexion of some of the faces and some of the poor levels of blurring. When you look and pay more attention to the detail of these images, you can start to spot irregularities throughout these images. For example, the glasses go into the head here, but seem to cut through the hairline over this side. When there's glasses, there's often mismatch blurring as well. For example, here we can see the side of the guy's face. We can also see the outline here of where there may have been glasses in the first place. Where there is potential jewelry, we can also see that often the jewelry is mismatched. Sometimes glasses disappear completely, as you can see with the frame here. Other times there appears to be many odd things going on in an image. Sometimes you will also see body parts or other people in images, and you can see that there appears to be some morphing on the side of the image, like what you can see with what is potentially a hand. So what are some examples of how generative adversarial network faces, or GAN faces, have been used in campaigns before? In an investigation I did in the past with Bellingcat, we identified a influence operation or a disinformation campaign operating within Indonesia, targeting human rights activists and the information space within West Papua and around West Papua. What I was able to do was to identify numerous accounts on Twitter that were using these similar styles of faces, which were likely from ThisPersonDoesNotExist or another GAN style website. And again, you can see that centrality of eyes, meaning the central location of the eyes in these images, which you can often match up with straight lines. But also for that further verification, looking at, for example, the failure of the blending of this cap, and you can see some of the images that we're able to identify just for a further follow-up verification to show that these are indeed poorly blended GAN images. By working with a researcher called Elise Thomas, we're able to trace back the origin of this campaign to a marketing firm operating out of Jakarta, which built these campaigns as part of a professional package for digital marketing services. These types of faces, used as profile pictures for social media accounts, have been widely used in information campaigns, and we've seen other networks use these for profile pictures. For example, in this piece we worked on with the BBC to identify numerous accounts promoting Chinese government narratives around certain issues, and again these same identification features were used, such as the central location of the eyes and those mismatch features of the blending and blurring. An analyst that regularly identifies networks using some of these AI generated faces is someone called Conspirador, who is regularly active on X and also runs a Substack called Conspirator Zero, who I'll link to in the description below, and they are often identifying information operations and campaigns where these campaigns use those images as their profile pictures for the accounts that push out certain narratives, disinformation, or attempt to influence specific subjects. While we've been looking at the site ThisPersonDoesNotExist, there are also two other websites that are quite commonly used for this kind of work. There is another version of ThisPersonDoesNotExist. This one allows you to select categories of faces. So for example, allows you to generate male faces of a specific age group, of a specific ethnicity, and generate faces in that means. Another website, which is called generative.photos, does this on a much larger scale and allows you to look at specific ethnicities and create faces based upon your selection there as well. The second platform we're going to look at is DALL-E, or DALL-E, however you want to pronounce it. And you can easily access that through using ChatGPT, which is found at OpenAI. And this is a specific AI program that's capable of generating detailed images from text-based descriptions. So you can generate any kind of image based on what you write in this text box down here. So for example, we could ask for an image of a dog sitting on the Eye of London wearing a cape. As you can see, I've created something that is obviously not real and obviously doesn't look real, but essentially is a way to create an image based on a simple string of text that I put in there. If I was to try and create a photo of the London Eye on fire, you can see that the policies of GPT and DALL-E stop that from being created, so that you can see that the policies are already in place and are continuously growing to stop images being created that may be for nefarious or harmful purposes. If I was to create a more practical example to try and create a realistic photo, we can start to see the limitations of what DALL-E has. So say for example I want to create an image of a dog in front of the London Eye to make it look a little bit more realistic. Except this time I'm going to include a prompt to make this more realistic. As you can see, even asking DALL-E to create a realistic image, it still includes this kind of filter over the image, similar to this image as well. And many of DALL-E's creations or images have these kinds of almost cartoonish kind of filters added to give them that kind of unnatural look, as though it's not a real photo. So what's a real world example where this platform's image has been used? Well, if we have a look at news outlets where they may not have images to include in their news articles about certain things, then we may be able to find purposes there. For example, in this article from NextShark, which is about a former Facebook employee saying that Facebook's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, was waving a katana sword around the office, there's no imagery of that. However, these two images, which if you look at them, they're very poorly generated, were used as the kind of illustration or imagery for this article because it didn't have any images. But what we can see is that at the bottom of the article, the featured image was created using DALL-E Mini. By using DALL-E, we can also generate faces as well. So similar to where we have This Person Does Not Exist, which would be used for a profile picture, that can also be created through DALL-E. However, that would look completely different in comparison to what This Person Does Not Exist have. So looking back on This Person Does Not Exist, we can see that these are very realistic faces. We have the centrality of the eyes. For DALL-E, when we generate faces, again, you can see what I mentioned with those previous images. We have this cartoon style appearance, which looks like an animation filter that's added over the top of many of DALL-E's images. Moving on to the third platform, we're going to look at Midjourney. And Midjourney is similar to DALL-E in that it's an AI platform that generates or creates images from textual descriptions, the same as what we've just done before. And it's often used for artistic purposes or generating interesting images, editing images as well, changing images, adding color or colorful creations. Midjourney is impressive because it makes far more realistic images than what DALL-E is capable of, and really showcases that diversity in AI-generated image based on prompts. So where you would add, for example, what we did in the DALL-E one, where we asked it to create photorealistic or realistic images, this would actually do that and would really listen, or does really listen, to the prompts that you provide or the commands that you give it. With Midjourney, the platform that it uses or that it communicates through is Discord. Specifically, what you do is you communicate with the Midjourney bot in providing prompts and commands to that bot. So in giving an example, I'll hit my / and you can see the kind of things that you can ask the bot. For example, you can ask it to blend images. You can ask it to write a prompt based on an image. So you can drop an image in here and get it to write a prompt for you. I'm going to hit Imagine and I'm going to work on a prompt. Similarly to what we did with DALL-E, we're going to imagine a dog standing on the London Eye in London with a cape, or wearing a cape. Except this time I'm going to take it a step further and ask it to be a realistic image. Okay, so we have our images that have been generated, and we can see through these that they look extremely realistic in comparison to the ones that we created in DALL-E. It almost looks as if I've taken my dog, popped that cape on it, and taken a photo of it within the London Eye, which is far more realistic than the images that we created in DALL-E there. So you've seen how the platform works. What are some real world examples where some of these images have been used in disinformation campaigns? In one case last year, an image allegedly from Midjourney was reportedly showing an explosion near the Pentagon. While there was quick verification to show that this indeed was not the case, emergency services were still alarmed and individuals were still of the belief that there was indeed an explosion or a fire near the Pentagon. However, analysts quickly looked to see that in the background of the image, some of the blurring was failed, as we've seen in previous AI-generated images as well. And if we look at Elliot Higgins' Twitter posts where he used Midjourney to make pictures of Trump getting arrested while waiting for Trump's arrest, again, this was not a real event, we can see some of those details there around the hand, the number of fingers, as well as the faces in the background. If you count some of the fingers on the hands, and if you look at the details of some of the hands, like this person's hand right here, if you look at some of the faces in the background, you can see that they have failed to blur properly. These are all common attributes of Midjourney images where hands really do not work too well. Unfortunately, with images like this, so when Elliot put these out, even these images were then used by other accounts to allege or say that there was an arrest of Trump. However, as you can see in the notes under here from the community notes, people again reminded individuals that these are fake generated images. While I've created a quick example in Midjourney, and you can see these ones of Donald Trump, there have been far more advanced developments by using Midjourney and specifically harnessing the use of prompts to make photorealistic images. One good place to find these is through Reddit, where people are creating photorealistic images using Midjourney and very much showing the full extent of how well they work. However, if we look at these images, again, we can see the subtle flaws that I spoke about before, such as the hands and some of the faces. So we can see this person's face, but definitely the hands there, where we have mismatched fingers, we have mismatched hands, and they appear to be in different shapes. So while this image looks completely very close to realistic, we can see those subtle flaws still being present there. Another way to identify the flaws within a Midjourney image is the wording used in these images. So this very realistic looking image is flawed by the fact that you can see the wording, and the generation of this image has failed to actually make sense with the wording. So you can see the vehicles here, the number plates, the wording on these patches, the wording on the side of this vehicle, and even the street signs over here are not of any kind of language that's on this earth, and they mismatch and really don't make much sense. And that comes with a lot of Midjourney images that the wording just never seems to work out. Moving on to the next one is the FaceApp editor. And this is actually an application for phone devices. You can use this on both Apple and Android devices. I have this on my mobile phone, which I'll run through on the screen here. And you can see the ways that these essentially allow you to edit faces. To demonstrate how this works on the phone, I'm using an iPhone, and I'm going to use the example of one of the faces that we created using ThisPersonDoesNotExist to edit this person's image. So I can change the complexion of this person, but I can also change their hairstyle as well to give her a bob cut. I can add a level of makeup. I can add dimples. And then there are further things such as changing and adding the addition of a smile on that face as well. You can also change the age of someone to make them appear more youthful, or indeed to make them appear a little bit older. So how have applications like this, where real faces can be edited, how have they been used in real world situations? Well, we have an example from India, which you can see on this BBC report here, where the faces of two athletes who were detained after a protest, where they were looking quite sad in their original image, and then how this was uploaded to make all of the people that were facing the camera appear as smiling, in order to make out that this was indeed a joke, or that they were happy and not actually serious about what they were protesting about. The implications of this indicates that there is an attempt to mislead the public, and by changing someone's facial expressions shows that they're conveying a different emotion in comparison to what they were conveying in this original image that they posted there. You can spot these by having a look at the original context. So if you have the original image, again, as the 5 tips that we went through at the start, considering the context of the event, which was considered here, doing an image reverse search of that image, and also questioning the account that originally uploaded both the original or the manipulated version, and what sort of accuracy and trust does that account have. As you can see, each of these platforms highlight different aspects of AI generated imagery, from creating entirely new images to altering existing ones. And by covering these, this tutorial provides a comprehensive overview of just some of the platforms operating in the current landscape of AI image generation and manipulation, as well as their implications in the realm of disinformation. To go back through those 5 initial tips that we went through, when we're looking at these images, we first look closely at the image to have a look at things like hands, faces. Then we look at second, things in the background, looking for blurred or pixelated elements or distorted reflections. Third, we do an image reverse search using things like Google or Yandex or TinEye. Fourth, we verify the source sharing the content, so checking the credibility of the account sharing it. And then 5, and one of the most important ones, actually verifying the event and the claim itself. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session.